I'm going live. We are live. It is January 4th, 2024. Welcome, everybody. And if you are joining now, thanks for coming along. And we already got a couple people on the stream. This is fantastic. I'm really excited to be doing this. And this is going to be a fun session. And hopefully it's going to be really helpful for all of you. And I'm going to have a couple different segments today. We're going to be talking about setting goals, about, identifying what you're trying to accomplish musically, and then how you can take that and shape your practice, and then develop your practice routines and set yourself up for success. So there's a lot to cover, and if you've got questions, leave them here in the chat if you've got questions, and I'm going to be getting to all of your questions. I'm going to hit some topics first, and then I'm going to answer all the questions at once. But just leave questions if you got them. And if you are here and you can't stick around, this is going to be optimized for replay, so you can check it out later. And all the questions are going to be answered in one spot. Then I'm going to move on to the next topic. And then at the end, I'm going to answer all the rest of the questions. What's my... See, we got questions already, and we're going to get to those. And this is a... This is a fun topic for me because I love, working on goals and really taking the time to identify, what's happening with my playing today, the current state of playing. So we're going to begin into all of this. Thank you for joining. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me and see me okay. I think everything is looking fine here on my end, but I just want to make sure that as we're going along that you can all hear this. So when we're looking at this trumpet, all right, and we're saying, all right, I want to have the best year yet, right? I want to have the best year yet. Now, that's going to mean different things for a lot of different players. However, what I'm talking about today is going to be applicable for everyone's situation, because you got to identify, some of these things for yourself. Now, the first thing, this is the self-reflection. The first thing is honesty with assessing your playing, where you are and where you want to be. All right. That's a biggie. And that's a thing that a lot of people, they kind of shy away from that, because none of us, we don't want to really always confront like what we aren't good with. We love to play what we're good at. We love to practice things we sound good at. And it's really tough to take that honest assessment and be like, well, I guess I really could use more work on my intonation or my range or flexibility, whatever it is. So honestly assessing where you're at is going to be your very best thing you can possibly do, because without that, there's no way you can make a plan. So that is where your metronome, your tuner, all these tools that we have, recording yourself while you play, getting a teacher, getting that feedback, where you're really at, that is where this is going to be the very most helpful. Remember, this is playing the trumpet, playing music, this is a marathon, all right? It's not a sprint. It is a never-ending marathon. And one of the things that I love about talking to different trumpeters from all over the planet, they all, are still growing. They're all still learning. They're still challenging themselves all the time. And that is a hallmark of a professional player. That is a hallmark of someone who is really serious about their craft, is that they never stop challenging themselves. They never stop trying to learn. They never stop trying to improve what they're doing. Even if you look at them and you think, hey, they're at the top of the game, they're working on things every single day. So there's no shortcuts. If someone gives you a shortcut and says, hey, this is the trick. This is the trick. This is the shortcut. It doesn't work like that. If it did, everyone would be doing it. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. And, unfortunately with the trumpet, you got to put the work in. Now, when I talk about goals, I'm going to break it down into a couple different categories. All right. It's the beginning of the year. So, for me, I love kind of reassessing. Where am I at? Where do I want to go? Now, where am I at? Where do I want to go? In what time frame? So, well, we can just take a year. All right. A year from now, I want to be able to blank. A year from now, I want to be able to blank better. A year to you get it, all right? Now, that is just like a big goal. It's not something you can achieve in a day. It's not something you can achieve in a week or a month. This is something that's going to take time. And if I was going to say, "Hey, I want to improve my range by a fourth," I'm not going to do that in a week. I'm not going to do that in a month. You got to really put the time in, and you got to create a plan. Now, I've got long-term and midterm goals. I would say that's like quarterly. Monthly goals, all right? That could be based on concerts and you know gigs that you have coming up. Weekly, that's what you got right in front of you. And daily goal, that is the accountability of practice. That is making sure that you are checking in with yourself daily and putting in the work that's needed in order to then reach your weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly goals. Now, when I think about goals on the trumpet, um, I love to think about it from a musical context. So many, so many players out there, so many developing trumpeters out there, they think about their goals strictly from a technical standpoint. They say, "Man, I want to be able to play a high A. I want to be able to double tongue this fast. I want to be able to." And when you do that, you're taking music out of the context. Instead of saying, "Hey, I want to be able to play a high A," find a piece of music that's got a high A in it. You say, "Hey, I want to play the Brandenburg." Okay, cool. That's a goal. That is a musical goal that you can work towards, because we shouldn't have in our mind these technical feats um, isolated and separate from music, because then we're not setting ourselves up in a way to really address why we're doing it, and how we should approach it. Because a high A in the Brandenburg is different than a high A in a big band. It's different than as a jazz soloist. So each one of our circumstances, our musical goals, is going to help us define our goals as from a technical standpoint. So musical goals, for me, when I think about musical goals, I think about music that I want to play, music that I want to learn, bands that I want to play with, gigs that I want to do, maybe an album that I want to record. Like, these are big musical goals. And, for me, that keeps me motivated. That is kind of what drives me. And I think to myself, it's like, man, I would love to be doing this type of gig. I would love to be doing this type of work. Now, I'm not doing it right now. So then I got to think to myself, well, wait a minute. If I'm not doing it now, what steps do I need to take in order to do that? Is there anything from a technical standpoint that I need to address? And then you can also say, is there anything from a musical standpoint that you need to address? So, thinking music first as far as your goals are concerned is going to help you really define what all this is. And then once you start getting into that, that's going to bring you to the second part of this stream, where I'm going to be talking about how you can use your goals to then shape your practice, how you can use your goals to create a practice session that works for you, create a practice routine, that will evolve and, work with you as you are chasing these goals of yours. So musical goals, I said, music you're working on, bands you're playing with. The technical goals, which support the musical goals. And that's putting everything, that is setting yourself up for success. All right. Now, once you've gone through this process, that's when, you can really get to work. And for a lot of you out there, thinking about it right now, like, okay, well, these are the bands I want to play with. And, just start writing it down. For me, I love writing things down. You can type it on the computer, it's totally fine, but you can write it out, because, if you don't write it out, then it's just kind of swirling in your head. At least for me, just kind of swirling in my head. And I love to just write it out and put it there. And, when you're talking about your musical goals, don't separate it from the context that it's going to be happening. All right. Never separate your musical goals from the context, because that could be a point where, you're going to then get onto the gig and you're going to be like, wait a minute, this isn't like how it was when I practiced it, because that's the context. So for me, I got some musical goals. I've got technical goals that I'm working on, and I'd love to hear what some of you have on your end goals, both musical and technical that you're working towards this year. Put it in the chat because I want to talk about some of them, and I want to address some of them, and get this conversation going. So, for me, this last year has been a little bit different from years past. And that's because this last year I wasn't on the road nearly as much as I had been with Under the Street Lamp. That's a group that I've been touring with for 7 years now, and it's kind of like Jersey Boys. It's a lot of fun. 3-horn section, and then an 8-piece band with 4 singers. 7-piece band, excuse me. So there's 11 of us on stage, and we are, playing high energy music, and it's classic rock, 50s, 60s, 70s, classic rock, doo-wop. It's like a commercial lead book. And I haven't been on the road with them as much, just because, some years you're real busy, some you're not. And this past year, I've been playing a lot more here in Chicago than I had been in some of the years where I was on the road, 65 dates, out of town. So for me, some of my musical goals are a little bit different because there's groups and bands here in Chicago that I'm like, man, I'd love to play with them. And, some of them I haven't. And, what steps do I got to take in order to change that? And then with my playing, it's like, okay, well, if I'm playing with these types of bands now in town, I've been doing a lot more big band gigs in town playing lead. And I love that. And it's funny because up until, kind of more recently, like a lot of the big bands that I was playing with in town, I was like sneaking in under the radar. I was playing like third, fourth trumpet, which I love because a lot of the bands here, whether you're playing first or second or third, it doesn't matter. You're still getting paid the same money. So it's like, okay, cool. This is an easy gig. I can play some solos. I'm chilling. But I've been getting called for a lot more lead big band gigs. And that's a little bit different than playing lead with Under the Street Lamp. So for me, it's like, okay, well, these are some things that I want to, focus on in my playing because, there's a different pacing with Under the Street Lamp. And sure, I'm playing high Fs, high F sharps, high 8 flats. Like I write the horn charts for that band. So, I get to write it out, but like it's a different pacing. And, if I'm going to be doing more big band stuff, which I love, or playing with some other bands in town that, that is something I need to adjust. And another big goal for me this year, I would love to play a recital or two. I haven't played a recital in a really long time. And back when I lived in Ohio, I used to give 1 or 2 recitals a year. This is 10 years ago. Tomorrow, 10 years in Chicago. Totally wild. But, I haven't given a recital in a long time. So I would love to do that. And some of the goals of, some of the things that I'm currently working on that are upcoming, I'm going to be giving a lot of master classes throughout the Midwest, East Coast, in the next couple months, leading up to the ITG conference in Anaheim, California, where I will be presenting. And I was invited to present a session on trumpet mutes. So really stoked about that. So I'm bringing this session to universities, across here for a long time. And I'm going to be really excited to be bringing these sessions to these universities. So, that is a different type of goal. That is a career goal, which I'm going to get to now. So, right, we got career goals. That is, once we got our musical goals, our technical goals, that can also be shaped than our career goals. And this is for more, if you're in high school, it's still a career goal because you're thinking about going to college maybe, right, for music. If you're in college, all right, your career goal is you're graduating, maybe you're going to graduate school, or maybe you're going to be auditioning for, an orchestra or a band, or, so these are the things you got to think about them. Booking gigs, if you're on your, as a soloist, there are all these categories, and, you just sit back, really kind of do a self-analysis. Okay, this is where I am. This is the state of playing, right? It's like the State of the Union. Like we should just do that with our trumpet playing. We got to identify where we're at and where we want to be. So we got some questions here. We got a couple more people who are writing some stuff here. This is great. So I'm going to be answering all the questions here in just another 3 or 4 minutes. I'm going to be getting to them. So if you have any questions about anything I've been talking about so far, musical goals, technical goals, anything that you're working on this year, I want to know about it. And career goals. What are your career goals? And what is your plan? How are you going to achieve them? Have you really tried to map it all out? All right, because that's what I want to help you with. Now, there's a great saying which I love. A goal without a plan is just a dream. All right, and that's the thing. Like, you gotta have a plan. We can have our goals, but without a plan, we're not going to do it. All right, I could have a goal. Hey, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. Well, without a plan, I'm probably just going to keep eating chips. It's not going to happen. So we gotta have a plan. Now, as I talked in the beginning, we got our long-term goal. We got a midterm goal, right? Maybe a couple months, a quarter. Got a month goal, a week, and a daily. And when I think about daily, that's practice, all right? And developing a routine that works for what we're trying to achieve. When I think about weekly, well, that is, what music am I playing this week? When I think about monthly, what gigs are coming up? What do I need to prepare a little extra for? Quarterly, maybe those are the recitals. Those are the big gigs, those are the auditions. And then year is, okay, this is where I am now, where I want to be. So once you go through that process, you can really start to create a plan for success. And I'm going to answer questions now, and then we are going to get into building that plan for success and talking about some strategies of, identifying what's in your music and how you can shape your practice routines then in order to really get yourself going. So, all right, we've got some, it sounds good. Thank you. Perfect. And Jack O'Reilly here is asking, what's your take on the phrase, use more air? Now, maybe you can elaborate on this a little bit better. Use more air, because, man, I hear that a lot, and I've said that in the past, and I still say it sometimes. For me, my take on the phrase use more air is it depends. Because, for a lot of young players, they need, they're if you haven't been playing long enough, you don't necessarily realize the proper amount of air that you need to play. I think a lot of people overblow, actually. So, that can be a challenge. But for young players, it can really help them get that airstream going, which is just, it's essential. I like the phrase use more air far more than fill your horn up with air, because I hear that from time to time. They're like, man, you got to fill your horn up with air. Well, right now, my trumpet's sitting next to me. It's filled with air currently. Otherwise, it'd be a vacuum. Like, if you put air into it, it's just pushing the air out. That's how it's going to work. But the thing is about using more air, what that really means is, fill your horn up with air. What that really means is get an air stream, get your air column moving. All right. All right. So we got some goals here. Jack, you wrote to get better at sight reading and transposition. All right. This is terrific. So that is a technical goal. What is the musical goal there that's driving that? All right, you want to get better at sight reading and better at transposition. Is it because there's certain bands or orchestras or certain pieces that you want to play, or is this just a personal thing? You're not playing any gigs at all, and you're sitting at home. You just want to that's something you just want to improve. I'm interested to know about that, because if you're saying, hey, I want to get better at sight reading, well, sight reading what? Are you going to be playing a lot of jazz gigs, and you need to learn how to play changes better, and you need to learn how to play some of those rhythms better? Are you playing contemporary classical music? Because those are completely different things. Transposition, the same thing. Are you going to be playing a lot of charts that are written in C, and you want to play you're transposing on the gig? All right, I'm an orchestral. All right, here we go. I'm an orchestral musician, and I have the tendency to avoid it. All right, so sight reading, for me, Um, sight reading is something you just got to do it. You got to do it consistently. And the internet's amazing because there's so much music out there, and some of it is really easily accessible. I never encourage anyone ever downloading copyright music without paying for it. Support authors, support composers, pay for your music. You can get a lot of incredible etude books, sheet music collections, all this. It doesn't cost an arm and a leg. And it helps support your fellow musicians and composers. So, orchestral musician, you have a tendency to avoid it. So that covers transposition, and it covers sight reading. So, for me, I would break that into three categories. All right, category one, we got sight reading just on its own. Category two, we got transposition just on its own. Category three, we've got a combination of sight reading and transposition at the very same time, because that way you're going to put yourself in a situation for success while you're playing in orchestras. And for sight reading, you could take anything. The goal for sight reading is we want to be able to play perfectly, play as accurate as we can the very first time. And there's a lot of ways about that. And the best way that I found for improving sight reading is just making sure every single day you're playing something you've never played before, that you are sight reading. It doesn't have to be for a long time. You don't have to do an hour of it. You don't have to do 30 minutes. You don't have to do 15 or 20, do 5 minutes of new material every day, just sight reading and with a metronome, and making sure that you are staying in time, making sure that you're staying in time, and that way you are preparing yourself for a live musical situation. And better yet, if you can just pull up a bunch of orchestral parts, that you maybe even pieces you've played, but you haven't played the first part, or you haven't played the second part or the third part. Get all the parts you haven't played. Play those, sight read them, because you'll be familiar with a lot of the rhythms and how the piece goes, but it's different notes. And I experience that all the time. Some of the bands that I play with here in town, some big bands where normally I play maybe the solo book or the third book or the fourth book, and when they switch you around or playing a lead, like same rhythms, different notes, that can be really tricky, especially for those inside parts where you're playing all the harmonies. So making sure you're sight reading every day. I love etudes. I try and play a couple of etudes every single day from different books. I particularly love those the French etudes and the Charlier and Biche, but there's so many incredible etudes out there. Excellent sight reading. And transposition, for that, I would really for me, I don't do a lot of orchestral playing. And orchestral transposition is something also that I haven't done a lot of since I was in college. However, the concepts, I'm playing a lot of jazz, I'm transposing, taking pieces that you're familiar with already, and then working on the transposition, that will really allow you to focus on the transposition aspect. Just take a piece that you're familiar with and try playing in another key. And once you've done it well, try taking in another key. Take a solo. Try putting in another key, or any of your daily practice studies that you do. Take it, put them in another key, and then if you really want to get into it, add just a little bit each day. Where, hey, I am sight reading and transposing at the same time. It's gonna be tough, and don't go too fast. Just take it nice and easy and slow until you get comfortable, and until it works for you. And that's what I would do. That is how I would, approach taking some things that I'm trying to work on and breaking it into chunks and pieces and saying, okay, this is the step I would take. And I'm going to get to in a minute in the next section, where I'm going to talk about how you can then incorporate those into your practice, and you can have different benchmarks to really, track your progress. So we got another goal. This is incredible. My goal: stop buying mutes. No, don't ever do that. I just had just had mutes arrive today. This is wild. Look at this. I'm gonna do a video on this. This is a this mute is from 1919. It is wild. I found it on eBay. I've talked with some mute expert friends of mine. As far as some of the people out there who've been collecting mutes for a very long time, um, there's only 3 of those for the trumpet that they're aware of, and this is one of them. So kind of wild. Greetings from France. Hey, thank you so much for joining all the way from France. Incredible. Do we have any other goals that people are working on? Any other goals that people are trying to accomplish this year with their practice? If not, I want to move on to this next session about your practice and how you can. Oh, hold on a second. Here we are. About how we can take our practice and then we can really, you know, take our goals and use that to shape what our practice session is so that we can actually reach our goals. Because as I said, remember, goals without a plan is just a dream. All right. If we can have all the goals we want, but if we don't set a course of action, then we're not really working towards them. So let's see what else we got here. Any more people got some questions? Put them in here. I will answer them. I will get to them. So here is one thing that it's not talked about very much at all, and I think it's really a great thing to start with as far as addressing practice and reaching your goals. So based on your long midterm goals, you've got to revisit your warm-up and your practice sessions, all right? Because a lot of us, we get into routines, and, we do this warm-up, we do this buzzing, we do this long tones, we do whatever it is, and we do it because we've been doing it, and it works. And, we do it just because it's a habit, and we do it because maybe our teacher told us. But not everybody is doing these because they've really deeply thought about, okay, what am I doing musically? And is what I'm doing in my warm-up and practice designed to support what I'm trying to accomplish musically and technically? So don't just assume what you've been doing and what has been working is going to continue working for you based upon the goals that you have. Because if you're trying to get somewhere where you haven't been before, you can't do what you've been doing. You got to change it. If you're trying to reach a new level, you've got to change something in order to help facilitate that. So that's an important thing. A lot of people just assume that what works is going to continue working. And, that's even with the warm-up. So you got to make it work for your needs today as well as in the near and mid future. And if anyone's got questions on this section as I'm going through it, let me know. Write them in the comments. You got to reassess what you're doing based on your present circumstances and goals. So an example for that might be like if you're not if you're used to doing a very particular set of warm up, but your gig has changed. Maybe you're playing in an ensemble which plays a different style of music, or you are playing on the road, right? You need to be flexible. Any situation may come up, and it's like, man, that is a totally different musical situation than when I first came up with my routine. So you got to look at it and you got to say, okay, well, this is what my musical goals are. How do I make my practice support that? So the thing that I believe in the very most for trumpet, for practice, for everything is consistency. And consistency in practice. So you don't have to practice every day. You can take a day off a week if you want. I know a lot of incredible trumpet players that take a day off every single week. And then I know some trumpet players, they don't take a day off for a year or 2 years. But, you got to do what works well for you and works well for your body. But consistency in practice and playing, if you are, if you want to expect to be able to, you can't expect to be able to play something that, on a gig and in a musical capacity that you don't regularly practice, that you can't consistently, if you can do it every day, then you've got that consistency. So, this is where you identify the music you're trying to play, the goals that you have musically, and then you identify the technical requirements of those goals. And then you can say, okay, well, I need to be able to do this on the bandstand. I need to be able to do this. For me, I need to be able to have, a lot of energy, endurance to be able to play these long shows. And with Under the Street Lamp, I'm touring. It's a lead book. I got to have a real crisp, articulation, a certain sound in the upper register. We end the show on a high A flat. That's the last note. I wrote it, and I put it in the chart. And, it's because it was a good challenge for me. Musically, it works. Musically, it's great. It's high energy. That's the encore. That's the end. We're doing it. We're leaving with high energy. But, like, for me, then, it's like, okay, if that's something I need to be able to do, well, I make sure that even when I don't play gigs with Under the Street Lamp for it might be a long stretch, might be weeks or months. Sometimes we're super, super busy. Sometimes there's a big break. Well, I still got to practice that. I still make sure that if they gave me a call and they said, hey, we got a gig tomorrow, last minute, boom, I'm ready to go. Consistency in practice, because my goals musically are that there's certain groups and bands and styles that I want to be able to play. And you got to be ready. If someone calls you up and they say, hey, all right, I need you to play this gig. Like, if you're ready, you're ready. If you're not ready, you're not. And that's the thing. A lot of people out there, they wait until the opportunity presents themselves to get themselves ready, to prepare. All right. A lot of people out there who, they're like, man, I would love to play with this band. I would love to play with that band. And, well, I'm willing to bet a lot of these people, if that band called them up tonight and said, hey, we got an emergency. We need a sub tomorrow. We're playing, in Idaho. We're going to fly you out first thing in the morning. There's a sound check. There's no rehearsal. And there's no charts. Well, you going to be ready for that? Or, hey, we need a sub in order to play, in our orchestra, this part. If you don't know it already, well, you don't got a chance. So putting yourself in the situation where, you are practicing and that your musical goals are aligned with your practice, so that when you get that call, you're ready, no matter what. And that's consistency with practice. Now, if you can, what works best for me, I'll say, because everyone, as I said, everyone's different. But what works best for me is, I've got a basic routine, which I love doing, that I've been doing for a long time, but it works for me. And I've adjusted it over the years. But I do my warm-up, I do stamp, I do buzzing, I do, long tones and slurs and articulations, and I do a lot of different material. And it takes me from the bottom of the horn all the way up. I practice every day beyond a double high C. That's just what I do every single day, and I cover a lot of bases. And I love etudes. I play etudes every day, and I work on improvisation every day. I'm, covering a lot of bases because musically I wear a lot of different hats. And one thing which I've found that helps my playing the very most is consistently warming up in the morning. It's if I can get up and start warming up and doing my first practice session of the day from either 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. If I get in there in the morning, I just feel great for the whole rest of the day. And I can take a couple hour break, come back to it, and I'm okay. And that was something that I had to learn over a couple of years when I was on the road, where I was playing, we were traveling, you get to a venue, you got time to warm up, then you got a sound check, and then you got like a 3 or 4 hour break, and then you play the gig. And, having that high intensity and then having a break, and then having that high intensity again, that took me a while to really sort out and get my chops used to it. Um, However, now, I'm in the position where I could warm up early in the morning. I could take 6, 7 hours off, and then with a very, very minimal warm up, my chops, they're good. They're ready to go, because I've kind of set myself, in the right path for the day. And that was something that I worked on. That was something that I realized that, hey, this is a little different than what I had been used to. This is different than what I had been doing previously. So I changed my practice session, and I found, hey, if I practice early in the morning around the same time, that just works best for me. So consistency, creating a routine that you can stick with, right? Now, you can and you should adjust what you're working on, all right? Um, you should be adjusting it daily. You can change it daily, you can change it weekly, um, and but not everything, all right? The things that you need to be consistent with your playing, you need to be consistently playing every day. When you're working on Jack was mentioning earlier about sight reading, or talking about transposition. Those are the things that you can adjust each day, right? If there's certain technical things you need to be able to play every day, double tonguing, range, flexibility, you can use different exercises, of course. But that's the great thing. There's like so much fantastic music out there. You can take an exercise. There's so many different books for flexibility. So you work on them, change things up. But the important thing is the consistency. For me is, I play articulation studies every day, but I change them up all the time. I do scales every day, 2 and 3 octave, and major and minor, and slurred and articulated. And I do them in different patterns, and I do different modes of minor. I switch it up because that way I'm working on my range, I'm working on my articulation, I'm working on my flow of music, and I'm, just solidifying all the different scales, whether it's, certain minor modes or whole tone or major, diminished, like working on all those. You're still doing it every day, but you're changing it up. And, we just don't want to get stuck in a rut where we're doing the same thing. And, that's kind of like some people have like road chops, or they'll have like if you're in a pit for a musical and you're playing the same show, like show chops, you're playing the same show 8 times a week. And that's what you've been doing for weeks or for months. And you could play the show in your sleep and you sound incredible, but then someone puts something else in front of you. And it's like, well, if you haven't been working on everything else in your playing, then it's going to be a challenge, even though you can play the other stuff like perfectly fine. So for me, really making sure that I have a good variety in my practice, but that I am staying consistent with the types of technical, requirements that I need in order to play the music that I need to do for my jobs and for my musical goals, like what I'm trying to achieve. So that's a biggie. Now, one thing that I haven't done for a long time, and one thing which I've done for different periods, and I find it to be incredibly effective, tracking your practice, writing it down, keeping a practice journal. And I know for a lot of people, like, nah, I'm not going to write a journal. It doesn't have to be a little, like a journal, like a notebook, a notepad. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but this is when it comes back to that accountability that I was talking about earlier. Where are you at? Where are you trying to get? And, if you write down in your practice log, hey, I did these long tones at this length, at this metronome marking. Hey, I did these scales. Hey, I did this etude at this tempo. Hey, I did this piece in this transposition, right? You can really keep track because we're playing way too much every single day to be able to remember everything that we've practiced, with specificity, all right, to really know, hey, this is really where I was. Otherwise, it becomes a blur. So if we can write it down, even if it's just once a week, you got to track what you're doing. The best way to really ensure your progress and to know, if what you're doing and practicing is working, is tracking it, is writing it down and making sure that you are, really actually, documenting, hey, this is what I've been working on. This is how it helped me. This is where I'm at. Because then you can say, hey, wait a minute. This is my goal. I'm trying to reach this. I've been practicing this for, you know, 6 weeks, but I'm still stuck. All right. Well, that's going to give you a clue. That's going to say, well, wait a minute. There's something else that is, hindering your progress. So, maybe that's the wrong etude. Maybe that's the wrong piece. Maybe that's the wrong exercise to actually, get you over that hump. Or maybe you just need to, work with a teacher or a friend, and you got to find someone who can, give you some feedback and say, hey, wait a minute, it sounds like you're doing this. So tracking your progress is, so important. And that can also be recording yourself. A lot of players out there, they don't want to record themselves because they don't want to listen to themselves. They don't want to listen to themselves because, they're like, no, I don't want to, I don't like hearing myself play. Well, it's so helpful. It really is so helpful. You got to get over it. All right. If you're expecting other people to listen to you, you got to be able to listen to yourself. All right. That's it. That's how it is. So, based on your goals, based on what you're practicing, based on tracking what you're practicing, that's how you know if what you're doing is really working or not. And that's what's going to then, tell you, hey, I got to adjust this. I got to maybe add this into my practice session. Or you can say, hey, I'm trying to reach this goal. I've been sight reading every day, but I still don't feel like I'm getting where I want to be. Or I'm transposing every day. Okay, well, maybe you need to just add a little bit more. Maybe you need to, try different pieces or different styles, right? Maybe you got to focus on one key a week. Maybe the whole way that you think about transposition, maybe you could think differently. All right. There's some people out there I know that think about transposition using clef transposition. That's me. All right. When I transpose, I think about clefs, not intervals. And that's something I picked up from Charlie Schluter way back. I had an opportunity to study with him for a month. I'm not even going to date myself. It was a long time ago. But, he talked about clef transposition and, looking at the music and saying, okay, I'm going to change the key signature and then I'm going to read it in bass clef, or I'm going to read it in bass clef up a whole step or down a whole step, or, whatever it is. If you can learn the different clefs, then that gives you a way to transpose. Some people, they look and they're like, I just want to think about it a fifth up. I want to think about it a fourth down, whatever it is. Cool. Whatever works for you. But, you got to try and practice in different ways, and then you track it, and then you can say, okay, this is really working for me, or it's not. Let's reassess and come up with a plan. Let's come up with a plan to help reach that goal. Remember, as I said, playing the trumpet, this is a marathon. It is a long marathon. It is not a sprint. And I can say 100%. I am playing now. I'm the best player that I've ever been. I'm the best player that I've ever been right now. There's, just because I'm always trying to get better. I'm practicing a lot, and I am constantly learning. There's not been a time where I haven't been pushing myself and challenging myself to try and learn new material, or to, put myself in a situation that feels uncomfortable. And then, when you're in that situation, then you can say, well, wait a minute, why was I uncomfortable? Well, maybe it's because I didn't feel like I was reading well enough, or because I didn't feel secure in my endurance. But when you put yourself in those situations, that's a gift. That's a learning experience, because you can take that and then you can say, all right, I know why I wasn't comfortable, and it's because of this, and I'm going to work on that. And for some people, it may be, hey, you don't feel comfortable in front of audiences as a soloist. Well, you gotta ask yourself, well, why didn't I feel comfortable? What reason was it? And you can say, oh, well, when I play in this situation, my endurance goes out the window. Okay, well, why is that the case? How is it different than your practice? Have you prepared yourself for this? If you haven't, then what do you need to change in your practice in order to make sure that that doesn't happen again? What's something that you can do on the bandstand to make sure that it resembles what you've been practicing? And these are things that you want to, you gotta take it to heart, and you gotta say, okay, I'm here to take this as a learning opportunity, because plenty of times still this year there's been plenty of times I've been on the bandstand, and I found myself in a situation where there was something about it. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm gonna add this into my practice, because I didn't feel I didn't feel in the moment. I didn't feel in the zone the whole time. Like, I was thinking, I was focusing on this. Something was tripping me up. Okay, well, what was it? One thing for me this last year actually was sight reading. And, over the number of years being on the road, playing with this group, there's been a couple of groups that I play with that are like a lot of the gigs I play. And I have a lot of that music memorized, so it's not like I haven't been doing that much reading on some of these gigs. And then this last year, I did a lot of reading gigs, and some of them I'm like, man. So I started incorporating more sight reading into my practice, and I started, just getting into it more and more and more. And that could be on the horn. That could also be, just taking scores and sight singing and going through them. Ear training. It could be on the piano. I mean, there's 100 ways where you can tackle that, and where you can get success. So that is that's just something we got to keep in mind all the time. If you feel a certain way on a gig that feels uncomfortable, or this or that, like, don't just push it aside. Afterwards, really think about it and say, wait a minute, I felt like this. Why was that? Because none of us want to feel like that on a gig, or in a rehearsal, or on a concert, in any situation. We want to feel confident. We want to feel prepared. We want to feel like we can do it. So if there's something there, that's how you identify. And, you put that in the same with your goals. Hey, these are my musical goals. These are the technical goals that will support those musical goals. All right, let's find some examples and what I can practice and how I can shape my practice in order to make sure that what I'm doing and playing at home is going to set me up for success. One thing about the trumpet, you can't cram. It's you can't. It's not like cramming for a test last minute. Like, it's a marathon. Like, we gotta do it daily, progressively. And if you put these to use in your practice, you say, hey, I want to develop my range in a certain way. Don't just smash your face and say, okay, well, I want to be able to play a high G. I can play a high C now, but I'm gonna just until I get it. You got to be practical about it. You say, okay, well, maybe I want to play a high G in 6 months, and then you set some goals for it. And you can say, okay, I can play this, I can play this, I can't play this. Okay, what can I do in order to get there? And then you develop your practice routine. And remember, balance. That is also something that I don't always hear educators and performers talking about. Balance. If I'm playing a lot of lead gigs, high and loud, I don't need to practice lead. I'm doing it enough on the gig, at least for me. Like, when I'm at home, sure, every day I'm going to go up there a little bit, but I'm not like pounding away at it. If I'm playing a lot of really intense gigs, I'm going to adjust what I'm doing in order to balance that out. I'm going to play soft. I'm going to play low. I'm going to play easy. And, I'm going to make sure that I'm not neglecting all the other aspects of my playing. That way, I am keeping everything, at a certain level. And, it's kind of like I said with road chops, or if you've got show chops where you're playing the same thing over and over and over. Whatever it is, you want to always maintain a balance. So that's where, you got your goals, you got your long-term, mid-term, you got your monthly, weekly, daily goals. And that's where you adjust things, based upon what you're doing today, and you fit it all in. Now, another thing, some other tools you could do. And I see we got a question. I'm going to get to that. And if there's any more questions, let me know. But some other things that we can do as far as goals. Some people, depending on how you're motivated. If you don't have a lot of gigs coming up, if you don't have concerts or gigs or anything to really practice and play for, well, then you gotta make them. You gotta make it happen. If you are an amateur player and you really just want to, play and perform, but you don't have opportunities, or you're like, oh, no one's calling me to do this, or this community band doesn't have any openings, whatever it is, or you're professional and the same thing. Make your own opportunity. Call people up. Call up, call a place and say, hey, can I come play for you? Call up a retirement center and say, hey, you mind if I play some jazz songs for you? Find these situations. Self-motivate. Because we gotta stay motivated. We gotta be practicing all the time. And with motivation, then you could say, okay, you could have a practice partner. You could have accountability partner. You can have a teacher. There's a lot of different names. There's a lot of different ways. But for me, I find it's really, I love, talking with different trumpeters and, getting them to come and hang. We'll do a trumpet hang. And I'll have trumpeters. They'll come over. We'll play. We'll shed. We'll practice things. We'll share. I'll share what I'm working on. They'll share what they're working on. We'll pick each other's, brains. We'll play some duets. And, doing that type of thing for me is great. And, I find that to be a great way to, have a good motivation. If it's a little slow day or a slow week or something, it's like, okay, well, how can we do that? Or, working on a project, say, hey, I'm going to record an album. There are, plenty of these projects and things that we can take. And, if it's not just being thrust upon you like you're in school, right? You got orchestra, you got wind ensemble, you got jazz band, whatever it is. If you're not in high school, you're not in college, you're not in, a professional ensemble and orchestra, whatever, like, sometimes we gotta create our own situations in order to then, motivate us. And then we look at and see what we're doing and say, okay, well, I'm going to make some musical goals here. And that's, you take those musical goals, like I said, and you identify, what technical goals you have, based upon what you can and cannot play, for what music you do want to play. So, just some strategies for, coming up with, practice sessions that work. And, as you notice, I didn't really even mention like Clark or Arban or Schlossberg or Bylin or, what have you, because everyone's situation is different. And, if you haven't studied with a teacher, then, I encourage everyone at some point always to work with a professional, just to get some feedback, because they're going to, help you out. But, there's so many styles of music out there. There's so many trumpeters out there, and you got to do what works for you. And I can't emphasize that enough. You got to do what works for you. And that's based upon your life. That's based upon, your situation, where you can practice, how long you can practice, what music you're playing. Like, there's so many parameters. So we got another question here. I'm going to answer some questions. And if there's anyone else who's got questions here, great advice here. Thank you. Do you use the same mouthpiece all the time? No, I don't. I have a couple different mouthpieces that I use, and generally speaking, I use the same mouthpiece. For practice daily, and for most of my playing, I use this Dennis Wick MM4C. I don't know if you can see it up close, but the Dennis Wick MM4C. That's the Morris Murphy 4C. I think the Dennis Wick numbering, the 4C, I think is closer to a Bach 2, something in that range. It's not, a very, very small mouthpiece. And I don't really know any of the parameters for it. But I use this for most of my playing, except when I'm playing real commercial. If I'm playing like a lead and I'm playing really intense stuff, then I will use a Dennis Wick 4X. And the 4, the rim is identical on both, so it's the same rim. But the X is I think it's maybe a more V, or it's a little shallower. Um, it's more efficient. You got to use the right tool for the job. When I go running, I use running shoes. When I ride my bike, I got special shoes that clip into the pedals. When I hiked up Mount Kilimanjaro, you could bet your ass I was wearing hiking boots, and they were ones that kept my feet warm because it was really cold up there. So you got to use the right tools, right? And you know, I can play any gig on this. And actually, a funny story. A couple weeks ago, I was playing at the Green Mill here in Chicago. It's one of the oldest jazz clubs in the world, and I play there once or twice a month with this old timey big band, Alan Gressick band, and it plays music in the 1930s and 40s. It's wild. And I bring you can. This is cool because I show up with bags of mutes for the whole trumpet section. There's three trumpets in that band, and we've been using matching mutes. I've been bringing sets of Shastok mutes from the 20s and 30s, matching cut mutes, matching right. I usually play third in that band. Sometimes I play second. Sometimes I play first. Whenever I play third, some of the tunes, there's different singers, and one of the singers that's there, I always play lead on his charts. And I have, so as I mentioned, I got the MM4C, and then I have the 4X. Let me see if I can find. I don't know where I put my mouth. Oh yeah, my mouthpiece pouch here. So Dennis Wick makes a lot of different shaped mouthpieces. So you can see the rim profile on both of these. One is much thinner. This is the Heritage. Now, these are both the same mouthpiece. It's the same cup. It's the same rim, same throat, same back bore. Um, However, this is my 4X. So I've got the regular, and then I've got this Heritage with the thin rim, the 4X, and then the MM4C. So these are the same. This is my commercial lead piece. Well, the other day I'm playing, and I was playing lead on a bunch of tunes on the third set, and I was like, man, it was hot. There was a lot of people in the club. It was packed. It was a vibe. It was a lot of energy. We were playing loud, and I was like, man, I must be real tired, and I was, because it was the same week as the Midwest Clinic here in Chicago. So I was running around since 7 a.m. that day, and we finished playing at midnight, and it was loud, and it was hot, and we were sweating, and we were working. Third set, and I'm like, man, this is really wearing me out, and everything sounded great. Band was on fire. We were playing great. Everything sounded good. But I was like, man, it just feels like a little bit more work. Get to the end of the gig, take my mouthpiece out. I look at it, and sure enough, I had mixed up these two mouthpieces, and I thought I was playing on my lead piece, but I was actually playing on my regular mouthpiece for that whole last third set, and that just kind of goes to show. It's like, okay, do I use the same mouthpiece all the time? No, I use the right mouthpiece for the right gig, and that's my approach. Like, when I play pick, it's the same thing. I'm playing on 6E. It's a smaller, it's shallower, but the piccolo trumpet is half the tubing. So like, you got to play something that works for that. Everyone that plays on a flugelhorn uses a flugelhorn mouthpiece, so I don't have any problem switching that up. And let me know. Um, are you playing on different mouthpieces? Or do you stick to one all the time? I know some people, they stick to one. Arturo plays one mouthpiece all the time. Some people out there, one all the time. Lou Soloff used to use different, multiple mouthpieces on one song. I was talking to someone the other day. They were like, man, he would switch out mouthpieces like in the middle of a phrase, which is wild. But for me, I think of mouthpieces like I do mutes. It's a tool, and I use the right tool for the right situation. A lot of people, they think of like a lead mouthpiece as, like, they'll say like a cheater, or they'll say, oh wait, that's you know that's gonna help you play higher. And I can play higher. Excuse me. I can play higher on my pardon me. I can play higher on my regular mouthpiece, on my standard mouthpiece, than I can on my commercial, on my lead mouthpiece. I play it more often. I'm more comfortable on it. But you know, the sound, the sound. You got to think musically. You got to drive everything musically. You know, when you're setting your goals, you got to think musically. When you're choosing gear, you got to think musically. And for me, when I'm playing lead, when I'm playing, pop, when I'm playing rock, um, there's a specific sound, there's a specific articulation that I'm going for. There's a certain sizzle to the sound that I might want or need because of the circumstances and situation of that music. Because for a lot of under the street lamp, as I mentioned, we're playing 50s, 60s, 70s classic rock doo-wop, and then there's some other groups I play. There's one group, there's this one show that I play, and it's all the music of Stevie Wonder. It's great. We've done it here in Chicago. I was out in California, Laguna Beach, for a week playing that a few months ago, and it's a lot of fun. Great music, great charts, and when you get into some of these other styles of music, um, you got to understand your role, right? And for me, when I think about gear, I think about what's my role, and what's the sound concept, and how do I reach that? And some music you are playing a real melodic role. Some music you are playing a harmonic role, as well as melodic. Some music you are really like just a harmonic percussionist. There are charts, and there's some music out there where you are really playing a percussion role, and it just needs to pop a certain way. It's got to have this sizzle. It's like hitting a snare with a drumstick, right? It's just got to have a certain thing to it versus, a soft mallet on a marimba or something, right? It's a different character of sound, and that to me is, when I'm thinking about using a different mouthpiece, that's what drives that. It's not, hey, can I play this note? I can play the note. I can play the note on any of my mouthpieces, but is it going to give me the, or is it going to give me? Is it going to help me play with the sound and articulation and style that I really want, with without having to work too hard? Because I made the shoe analogy earlier. Sure, I could run a 5K in my boots. I could run a 5K in my hiking boots. I won't want to. My feet would probably hurt after. It's they weigh a lot. Like it's unreasonable. But and I could go hiking in my running shoes too. But the same thing. They don't have a lot of support for walking over rocks and sharp things and for gripping and for keeping yourself from slipping. So, I'm gonna I'm gonna choose the tool that's gonna work best for the situation that I'm in. And that's one thing I love about mutes. So that's where I'm gonna go back to your goal of stop buying mutes. It depends how many situations you find yourself in. What's all the different types of music you're playing, and that is you may actually benefit from having the right mute for the right gig. All right, so you wrote here. I think that is challenging to change sometimes just for my practice. Thanks. So, is this something? This is an important point actually to make when you're talking about different mouthpieces. Um, if you're playing a lot of different mouthpieces, I would definitely recommend playing on them every single day, even a little bit. Doesn't have to be a lot. So, this is what I play all the time. When I play lead commercial gigs, I play this one. Well, I put this in my horn on gigs I'm not playing, on days that I'm not playing lead gigs, and sometimes I use this actually on gigs even when I don't necessarily always need it, but it's not gonna hurt or harm any of the playing that I'm doing. I'll bring it to jam sessions. I'll just find opportunities to use this to make sure that I'm playing or practicing on it every single day. And the same with my piccolo. I leave my piccolo out. It's on a stand, so I can just pick it up. And, even just doing a couple scales every day, a little bit of Clark or whatever it is. Sometimes I'll do some crazy stuff and try and play like a part of a B etude or something on piccolo. There's a couple that I think I might be able to play on the piccolo um, one day, up the octave. It's just kind of wild on the piccolo, but like it's a challenge, and I will, try just to make sure that I'm keeping it in shape because I love playing big, and this past December, last month, and November, I had a couple gigs. I had 3 gigs. I got called to play with this band that does all Beatles music, and it was a pretty easy gig for the most part, except had to play the Penny Lane solo, and I got to do that a couple times, which was a blast. But I wouldn't have gotten called for the gig if I wasn't, you know, able, because I was subbing, and I wouldn't have gotten called to be able to do this. Like, if the person who called me didn't know that I owned a pick and could play the pick really well, and that I could be someone that they could just call the next day and show up and play it. If my pick had been sitting in its case for 6 months, that's a different story. That's like, oh, like, well, maybe they're not the best person to call. But because I leave my pick out, and I can just pick it up and practice it a little bit. 5 minutes, 5 minutes a day, cool. 5 minutes a day is what is that? 5 minutes a day is 30 hours of practice a year. 5 minutes a day on the piccolo, 30 hours of practice over the course of a year. 5 minutes of transposition, 30 hours of practice over the year. Just thinking about it like that, it's like, man, that's how you reach those long-term goals. You don't have to do an hour of it every day. You don't have to do 15 minutes, but if you can, if you do a task for 30 hours, like you're gonna improve on it. If you play 30 hours of piccolo straight, like your chops are gonna have to go to the ER. But if you break it up, do a little bit here, then it's working for you. Same with mouthpieces. If you are doing 10 minutes a day on another mouthpiece, 15 minutes, like, okay, cool. You've just, you've done a lot of work over the course of the year. And then once you get into year 2, year 3, year 4, suddenly that's how, at least for me, I can maintain a certain level that I can expect on my standard mouthpiece, my commercial lead mouthpiece, my pick mouthpiece, flugelhorn. Flugelhorn, actually, I haven't been playing flugel that much, so that's something I need to take that advice myself and really kind of get into it a little bit more. But these are just practical steps, and all of it is just, based upon, the whole idea of we got to be honest with ourselves if we're playing, and then lead with music. Lead with music. What are your musical goals? And then taking that and, really investigating it deeply and saying, okay, well, if this is my musical goals, what are my technical goals in order to achieve that, so that I can play any of that music anytime, any day, and feel good and confident and really execute and really just nail it. So that is, how you identify what you need to work on, and then you incorporate in your practice session. And, it's just some simple steps, but by doing that, man, you are going to transform your practice. Because a lot of us, we've been on autopilot for years. I know so many trumpet players who are on autopilot playing material that they played the year before. And it was because they played it the year before. And it was because they learned that routine 12 years ago in college. And they just stuck with it because, like, it's a habit and it's a routine. And, there's a lot of people out there. Man, someone told me this saying once, and I loved it. They were talking about people who were like, man, I've got 10 years of experience. I've got 5 years of experience. I got 20 years of experience. But experience without growth. There's people out there, they may say, man, I've got 20 years of experience, when in reality, they've really got like 1 year of experience, which they've then repeated 20 times. They never grew past that. They never pushed themselves. So they're really good at certain things, but like they didn't push themselves beyond. And you know, I want to be in that situation where I say, hey, I got 20 years experience, I got 30 years experience, and really like I can go back and track, and I can say, man, I've developed. There wasn't a year where I felt like I was on repeat, right? And just thinking about it in that manner, saying, okay, well, you know, have I really explored this as much as I thought? You know, do I really have 20 years experience, or do I have, well, someone else could have done that in 1 year. Someone else could have done that in 5 years, right? You got to investigate that, and when you really think about it, then that drives your goals, that drives your practice, and then you say, wait a minute, okay, cool, I've done this, but I see that there's something else missing. There's something that I can be adding. I'm in a situation now where you know I don't feel comfortable. Well, okay, analyze it, understand it, and then incorporate it into your practice. So, that's just setting goals and working towards them. But I wanted to take this time today and break it down and break it apart and just like talk about all that, because this is stuff that I think about a lot and I think about all the time. And in my practice, it's always like, how am I gonna do what I need to do in order to accomplish my goals? Because I think a year in advance, 2 years. I think far in advance, and there's certain things that I would love to do professionally, and there's certain things I'm not there yet. There's certain things that I'm working towards, but I want to be able to feel like I'm constantly growing, and I want to I love setting these goals so that I got that carrot in front of me, that I'm working towards something, and then I can look back and say, man, yeah. And I crushed some of my goals last year. Really, like some of the stuff with my playing. Like I said, I'm playing and feeling on the horn better than I ever have. More powerful, with better endurance, with a better sound, more fluidity, and comfort. Improvising at higher tempos and in different scenarios and situations. I've been able to incorporate certain aspects of my playing that I was comfortable in the practice room, but not comfortable on the bandstand over this last year, particularly with my improvisation and expanding some of my range and technique as it relates to soloing and improvising. Because you know I was in a position where I was playing a lot of lead gigs, I was playing a lot of solo gigs, but I wasn't necessarily using all the chops that I had, and not to show off, but I just, it's like, well, wait a minute, I could expand this, but it wasn't something that I had really practiced or focused on or thought about. But then this last year, I started focusing on it more and being like, okay, cool. There's no reason I shouldn't be, playing my lines and ideas up to high E's and F's and G's and A's. And those are, that's high, but that's what I play on gigs. So I knew I could do it, but it just was a different circumstance. It was a different situation, to play a couple notes, ba ba da da ba, whatever it is, like as a lead thing, or like, Basie or Thad Jones or something that's like swinging, versus, hey, I'm playing bebop, I'm playing lines, I'm improvising, it's a different scenario. So, those are some of my goals, and I feel like I really, progressed with a lot of them last year, and it was because I identified, and then I said, okay, this is what I got to do, and this is how I'm going to do it. And what do we got here? It was great to be in contact with you. I'm a longtime subscriber. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'd like to hear you play it more often, jazz or anything on the channel. Yes, there is. All right, so you can't see now. Well, you can kind of see a little bit. There's a light here. This last week, I installed a bar on my ceiling. I've got lights mounted there. My studio is not huge, but I've had a bass player friend of mine come over a couple times recently, and I'm working on doing a whole bunch of duo jazz tracks with the both of us here in this space. I had to reconfigure a little bit in order to accommodate, with the filming angle and with the lights, and it's really tight in here. So I set it up for me originally for doing all my mute videos, but now it's like, okay, now I want to put more of my own playing out there, exactly like that. So I'm excited this year to be, I'm going to be hopefully putting out a lot, and I'm going to be kind of starting with a lot of companion videos to my Mute Monday videos where I'm going to post a video, but then I'm going to post like a 3-4 minute track of me just like playing a standard, but with that mute. So you get to hear me, you get to hear it in context, and you get to hear me stretch out a little bit more, which is going to be really exciting. I also, this past couple months, picked up a Barkley ribbon microphone. Shout out to Michael Barkley. He makes incredible microphones. And I'm really excited to be starting to incorporate that with my videos. And I bit the bullet and got Pro Tools. So previously I was recording all my audio to Cakewalk, which is a free software, which was giving me all kinds of trouble with trying to record anything. If it was a multi-track or even just kind of basic things, it was giving me a lot of latency issues and a lot of recording issues. So this year, there's going to be a lot of that. And, this isn't a trumpet goal, but as a career goal, this year for me, I mentioned early on in the stream, if you're here, I'm giving a lot of master classes and presentations coming up in the next 6 months, leading up to the ITG conference in Anaheim. I'm presenting a session on trumpet mutes at what looks to be about a dozen universities across the U.S. And then at the ITG, and so those are some big goals that I've got. But as well professionally, I am hoping this year to really dive back in deep and big on YouTube, posting Mute Mondays starting with this coming week, as consistently as I can. Maybe not every single Monday, but I have already batch recorded all the B-roll and certain parts of footage for 18 mutes. And I've got a lot of it just in the can and ready to go. And I'm going to be, I've changed a lot of my processes so that I can, keep up with posting more consistently. And I really want to make sure that I've got a Mute Monday every week. I want to try doing one of these live streams every week if I can. Something like this, a session where people can come hang, or an interview session with another with other trumpeters, or even doing some maybe some performing. I'm gonna keep it a little informal, but I want to make sure that I'm out here and that I'm talking with you, that everyone, this is a community. I want people to stop by. I want people to hang out. I want people to ask questions. I love interacting with everyone, and I love the trumpet, and I love the trumpet community, and I love the creator community, and just to be involved with that is incredible. And it really energizes me a lot. It motivates me a lot. So a lot of videos coming this year, a lot of playing videos, a lot of Mute Monday videos, a lot of interview videos. I've got my big interview series, which I will finish up with posting. I recorded a bunch of videos at ITG last year, which I'm going to be posting as a lead up to this year's ITG. And man, just a lot in the works. So, those are some of my career, creator goals that I've got here. And, I had to plan, same with practicing, same with my musical goals. Like, I said, hey, I want to start doing duo recordings here in the space. Well, what does that look like? I got to reconfigure the space. I got to mount my lights on the ceiling, get the cables and all the light stands out of the way so that there's enough room to be able to put a bass in here or a keyboard or organ, and the trumpet, and for me to be able to, film without there being light stands and microphone, and everything in the way. Like, it's just kind of logistics. But, those are my goals, planned, got things changed, and we're going to be ready to go. So we got some more people here. If anyone has got any questions, the way that this stream was set up was at the very beginning, I was talking about setting goals and talking about the difference between musical goals and technical goals, and then even career goals. I answered some questions, and then I got into the whole idea of making your practice session work for you based upon those goals talked about at the very beginning, and how you can take, your long-term goals, you can take your quarterly goals, your monthly goals, your weekly goals, and you can use those to then shape what you're practicing, shape what's on your music stand for the day, for the week, for the month. And the importance of making sure that you are tracking your practice, and just taking notes, just putting some notes down about what you've been working on, how long you've been working on it, what tempo, what speed, what difficulties, because that way, if you practice as much as I do, if you're practicing a couple hours a day, I don't remember every note and tempo and everything that I practiced every day. What etudes I played, what exercises, like, you gotta keep track. Otherwise, it's going to be really difficult for you to accurately track your progress. We got a question here. Josh, your advice about being prepared is excellent. Like when a band calls, are we ready? Yeah, thank you. That was something that I learned from a couple teachers, but the first time it was really put to me best, and I've told the story before. I'm going to keep telling it because I love it. Billy Hart, jazz drumming legend, jazz drum professor at Oberlin, where I went from undergraduate, and he gave a master class one week for the jazz forum. And someone asked, they're like, man, how did you get to play with all these different bands? And, like, how were you in so many of these different bands? And how did you record with so many? And he was like, well, there's bands I wanted to play with. And, I wanted, the step that I took was I bought all their albums and I learned all their music. And then he'd go hear them play. And he would learn whatever he heard on the gigs. And sure enough, he became friends with them. And then sure enough, when they needed a sub, they called him and he showed up. Well, he already knew their whole book. He already knew it because he had already practiced it, because he wanted to be in the band. And he was like, man, if I'm going to be in the band, I got to be ready for the call today. Right? Like, if I love Stevie Wonder's music. It would be like a dream to be able to play a gig with Stevie Wonder. And I know a lot of his music. I don't know all of his music, but I've got, I don't know, over 20 of his tunes, committed to memory that I can play. The form, the keys, all that. But that's still not enough. That still isn't there. Steve, if you're playing with Stevie Wonder, if he's calling you and say, hey, I need you on a gig in an emergency, I need you on a gig, you're not reading all, you're not going to have a music stand out there. Come on. You're going to be playing, you're going to be dancing, you're going to be out there, clip on mic. It's a vibe. You got to know the music. You got to know it. That's it. And that's the approach you got to take. That if you want to be in an orchestra, that reminds me of the story of Roger Voisin. I got to meet him once. Legendary trumpeter. I got to meet him. Ooh, hold on, my video. I got to meet Roger Voisin a long time ago in Boston. And I told this story. I might keep telling it because it's incredible. And I got to meet him. He was in assisted living, and he was in the assisted living, the same place that my aunt's mother was in Boston. And I had gone to BU for my master's, but previously I had earlier I had done this summer session at Berkeley, which was a blast. This like 5-week session. So I stayed with my aunt and uncle, and somewhere along there, my aunt's mother meets this gentleman and at the assisted living, and he's like, oh, this is the trumpeter. Oh, my daughter's nephew plays the trumpet, and would you talk to him? Or so I get a call from my aunt. She's like, have you ever heard of a trumpet player? His name is Roger Voisin. Or I'm like, Roger Voisin. I was like, yeah, that's it. And so I had this opportunity to meet him, and just an hour and a half. We're an hour, hanging out. He's telling stories, and it was great. And he was telling the story about auditioning for the Boston Symphony, and his father played in the BSO. But when he auditioned way long ago, hey, thank you so much. Hey, thanks for stopping by. I'm going to be doing these more. I really appreciate you being a subscriber and stopping by. All right. So, Roger, he was telling me the story about auditioning for the BSO, and he's like, yeah, well, there weren't like all these excerpt books back then. It's not like today. You can go buy excerpt book. if you needed the pieces, you needed to find them. You needed to, and not everyone had them. This was a very long time ago. So he was like, yeah, I just memorized I just memorized all the parts. And he's like, I went in the audition. I didn't have any music. They just like called out a piece. Or they called out a part. This is the piece. First trumpet or second part or third. Like, and I played it. And I was like, what? And like he won the audition. And that's wild. I mean, that is like beyond that's above and beyond level 100. But it drives home the point where it's like, if you're trying to audition for an orchestra and you get the audition list in front of you and you're looking at it and you're like, man, I got to learn these pieces. There's already someone who's played all those pieces 10 times that's going to be playing that audition with you. So, you might want that job, but you're not ready for that job yet. You're not prepared for it. And, that's the thing. Like, if you want to play with a certain band, if you want to play with a certain group, you gotta, take yourself to the, mentally like, hey, I'm in the band already. What does my day-to-day look like? What does my practice look like? If I'm already in this band, that means I already know all this music. Okay, well, if you don't know that music, then you know what work you got to do. So, that's in those goals. If there's groups you want to play with, you can do all the networking you want, but a lot of people, they get called for that first gig, but they don't get called back for the second or the third. They get their shot, and luck favors the prepared, right? We're all going to find ourselves in situations where we're lucky. But if you want to be a Broadway performer, sure, you got to be accurate. You got to be consistent. You got to be able to play 8 shows a week. You got to have great chops. You got to be a great reader. There's a lot of components there, but if you want to be able to sub in your town, in your city, well, you should be checking out like the theaters. Look at their next season of shows. See what shows are coming up. Try and get copies of those books. Try and listen to the recordings. Learn the music. Learn the charts. Find out who's the contractor. Find out who's playing. Because when you get your opportunity, boom, there you go. Like, that's long-term goal setting. Saying, hey, I want to play in this theater. I want to be the first call here. If you love playing big band, like, same thing. You can play a lot of big band gigs, but you can also, find all the recordings that are out there and listen to them and find all the music that's out there and try and play it. And then, as part of your practice session, be like, man, I'm going to practice these bassy tunes. I haven't played them before yet, but I want to. And one day you're going to. And one day it's going to show up. Hey, I haven't played all these Thad Jones tunes. Man, Thad Jones, those are tough charts. You get called on a gig to sight read those. Those are tough charts. So, you can set yourself up for success. And, that's part of the, really trying to understand where you are with your career, where you're trying to be, and taking those steps to put yourself in the best possible position for success. So that's what we were talking about today. And, stuff I love thinking about, and appreciate all you stopping by. We got more people here now, so if we got any more questions from anyone, write them here. I'm going to stick around a couple more minutes. Otherwise, there's going to be this video on the channel. You can watch replays where I kind of broke it all down about musical goals, technical goals, career goals, and then how you can then analyze and identify what you should be working on, and how you can then take those concepts and start incorporating into your practice, and how you can start tracking it. And then, that's going to put you in a position for success. And, that's what put me in the spot where coming into 2024, I feel like I'm playing, I don't just feel like, I know I'm playing the best trumpet that I've played my whole life. And this year, I'm excited. I'm going to be playing even better, because I know what my goals are for this year. I know what I'm working towards. And, I've already started putting that into my practice session. I've already changed my practice session in 4 days of this year. I've started incorporating slightly different material than what I had been incorporating, because I got certain goals this year that I'm trying to reach, and I want to make sure that I'm taking the appropriate steps, so that this time next year, beginning of 2025, I'm gonna do this stream and I'm gonna say, all right, man, I crushed it. I really took my playing to a whole new level. And that's what I want for everyone here, everyone watching, all my friends, all my colleagues, all my students. Like, you know, that's what it is. And earlier someone was earlier we had a question about transposition. We had a question about mouthpieces, and I broke it down in just simple math. 5 minutes a day. Work on something 5 minutes a day. If you do that every day for a year, it's 30 hours. 5 minutes a day, 30 hours. It's wild. It's a day. That's 60 hours over the course of a year. That's like working a week and a half, full-time job, working, transcribing solos. That's a lot of time. Like, and of course, as you add it up more and more and more, that's how we take our playing up those next level. But identifying and realizing, hey, we really got to plan far in the advance, far in the future, and we set our goals, and then we can take these incremental steps. You don't have to change everything. Use your strengths. Work from your strengths. This is a core belief of mine. Work from your strengths in order to tackle your weaknesses. No use in just no use in trying to tie both your arms behind the back when they both work fine. Like, use the tools at your disposal in order to help you, with anything that you're having difficulty with. And yeah, that's what it's all about. So, any more questions from anyone here? I'm gonna stick around a couple more minutes, and happy to answer questions. Appreciate all you being here. I got a lot of videos in the works for this year. Really excited. A lot of Mute Monday videos, a lot of interviews. We're gonna be doing a lot of live streams this year. My studio, as I mentioned, I've changed some things. I got some lights hanging from the ceiling. I got a new ribbon microphone from Barkley Microphones. I got just some new software for recording. Really kind of stoked about all this, and how it is going to allow me to reach some of my goals here for 2024 with content creation, and with just being a part of this global music and trumpet and creator community, not just from the bandstand, but from your computer screen here as well. So, well, I think that's what we got. This is last call. This is last call. If anyone else has got some questions, if anyone's got anything they want to toss out there, any points, or maybe you disagree with everything that I said, whatever it is, I want to hear. Put it out there. Otherwise, this coming Monday, I will have a new Mute Monday video out. And next week, I'm going to do another live stream. And that live stream is going to be, I think I'm going to just do an expansion from this session, and talk about some of the stuff that I'm practicing and working on, and maybe I'll take you through some things in my routine. And but man, I got some great guests that I've been talking with about doing some live interviews here. If anyone has anyone they'd love for me to get in touch with or collaborate with, let me know. I'm excited to hear about what you are all interested in and what would benefit you the most. But I think that's what we got. I appreciate all you hanging out here, though. And tomorrow, if you're on my Instagram or if you're on my Facebook, tomorrow you will see this new mute that I got. This is wild. This just showed up in the mail. This was just luck that I found this. This mute is from 1919. It's wild. It's stamped. It says 1919. It's not my oldest mute because I have one mute, maybe two mutes from the late 1800s. But this is a wild mute, and I haven't even played it yet. It showed up today, but the corks, I think these are the original corks. They are really thin, and it won't even stay in my trumpet. So I don't even know how it sounds yet. I need to cut and fit some new corks for tomorrow. But if you are on my Instagram, or if you are connected to my personal or band Facebook page, I'm going to be posting some video of that, a little clip, just of me playing, and I don't know how it sounds. And everyone I've talked to in the mute world who knows about that mute has either never seen one or apparently This is one of only 3 or 4 that is really even known of for the trumpet. There's a couple more of them out there for the trombone, but very cool. I'm excited about it. But that's not what this upcoming week's Mute Monday is. I believe this upcoming week's Mute Monday is going to be on some of the tattoo mutes. They had some new mutes that came out that I've got, and they are terrific. So, Mute Monday, man, everything coming up. Lots of good practicing. Man, I'm just stoked about practicing. I don't know about, some people maybe they don't get excited about practicing, but I love practicing. And when I have a lot of time to be able to practice and, just do my routine and then play some etudes and then work on some jazz tunes and then work on some solos, like just to get into it and to really feel like, man, I shed a lot. Gigs are great. I love playing gigs. I love being on the bandstand. I love traveling. But fortunately, I also really love practicing. So, gets me excited. Talking about it gets me excited. And, I think, we're in the position now to make this, as I said, as the thumbnail of this video suggests, best year yet. I think 2023 was the best year yet for me, and I think 2024 will be the best year yet for me, and I hope it is for you as well. And I think that's all we got for today. I want to thank each and every one of you for stopping by, for spending time with me today, this evening, this morning, wherever you are, and I will be around. I'll be seeing you very, very soon with some more videos and some more live streams. So that's what we got today. And everyone's favorite, thank you so much. Cheers, Josh. Thank you. Cheers to you. And I'm going to see all you real soon. I'll be back live streaming someday next week. I'm going to figure it out. But there'll be a Mute Monday video first. So, all right, everybody, take care. Have an excellent weekend. Or I guess have an excellent Friday and then an excellent weekend.